A big part of managing type 2 diabetes is paying attention to serving sizes. This is also a part of helping learn how to count carbs. So let's take a closer look at serving sizes for carbohydrate-containing foods. So we don't always have access to a nutrition facts label, so it can be helpful to know a few standard serving size for common carbohydrate foods. You can see a list here. Some common standard serving sizes are 1 small piece of fruit, half of a cup of oatmeal, 1/3 of a cup of pasta or rice, or 8 ounces of milk. Now, this doesn't mean that you're only allowed to eat 1/3 of a cup of pasta or rice at a time, but it does play a role in carb counting and tracking serving sizes. So here are some visual examples of what these standard serving sizes look like. We have 4 crackers, 1 slice of bread, a small apple, or a cup of milk. We don't always have measuring cups handy either, and so knowing some tips and tricks to estimate serving sizes can be helpful. You can see that 1 cup is about the size of a baseball. 1/3 of a cup is about the size of an egg. 1 tablespoon is about the size of the tip of your thumb from the knuckle up. And 3 ounces of protein is about the size of a deck of cards. So keeping all of that in mind, let's take a look at carbohydrate counting. Carbohydrate counting is a meal planning technique that is important for people with type 2 diabetes. This helps ensure that they are spreading out their carbs throughout the day and getting about the right amount of carbohydrates at each meal. It is different from one person to another depending on activity level and size of the body, and so talk with your doctor and healthcare team and they can help you figure out how many servings of carbohydrates you should have at each meal and snack. So you might be wondering about how many carbs should you be having at each meal and each snack. Like I said, this varies from person to person. However, the typical adult should have anywhere from 3 to 4 servings of carbohydrates at each meal and about 1 carbohydrate serving at each snack. And when I say carbohydrate serving, you can also call it carbohydrate choice. This is the common language that you'll hear when people are carb counting. We consider carbohydrate servings the same thing as carbohydrate choices. And there's a magic number that you should commit to your memory. 1 carbohydrate choice equals 15 grams of carbs. This is the standard conversion. And so put that number in your mind and we'll pull that back up as we go through this session. The next several slides will contain lists of serving sizes that will be helpful for carb counting. Check with your local health department to find if they have copies of the Choose Your Foods carb counting food lists. That would be a helpful resource, especially if you are new to carb counting. This list shows breads. You can see that 15 grams of carbs, or 1 carb choice for bread, is 1 slice. Here are some examples of grains and cereals. As you can see, these cereals don't all have the same serving size listed. The serving size for sugar frosted cereals is going to be smaller than that for unsweetened cereal. And that's because when the cereal is sweetened with sugar, it's much higher in carbs, so you should eat a smaller serving size. Here are some examples of beans, lentils, and peas and their respective serving sizes. The standard serving size for carb counting is 1/2 of a cup of beans when they're cooked. Here we have a list of starchy vegetables. It's important to note that not all vegetables are created the same, so this starchy vegetable category is important for people with diabetes to know about. Starchy vegetables have carbs in them and will impact your blood sugar, and this includes corn, peas, potatoes, and squash. These do have carbs in them, and so you should count them when you are counting carbs. Here are several examples of milk. Note that flavored milk has a smaller serving size than regular milk because of the added sugar. For non-dairy alternatives, the amount of sugar in those can vary, so it's important to look at the nutrition facts label and read how many carbs are in a serving of that so that you can estimate how much equals 1 carb choice. There's another category that goes into carb counting called free foods. And these are foods and beverages that contain less than 20 calories and less than 5 grams of carbs per serving. So these are foods that you don't have to count toward your carb counting numbers. This includes things like pickles, garlic and herbs, soy sauce and many spices, vinegar, tonic water, and hot sauce. If consumed in the proper amounts, these will not impact blood sugar. Non-starchy vegetables are another very important category. These are the alternative to starchy vegetables. These have fewer carbs and fewer calories than starchy vegetables and will not impact your blood sugar. In fact, you should fill up half of your plate with non-starchy vegetables at meals. These include broccoli, celery, cauliflower, mushrooms, onions, zucchinis, peppers, asparagus, and many more. You may not like everything on this list, so the trick is to find what you love from this list and fill your plate up with those. Similar to free foods, low-carb foods don't impact your blood sugar and don't have to be counted in the carb counting numbers. These are foods that have 5 or fewer grams of carbohydrates per serving. These have less of an impact on blood sugar if they're eaten in the proper serving size amounts. However, these foods do still have calories in them, and so you should pay attention to the portion sizes.